Hello, algoriters. Court is back in session on this Wednesday. I'm Al Reynolds, and this is the Court of Public Opinion. I'll be serving as the judge, and you, the viewer, will be the jury. The Court of Public Opinion is a place where you, the people's voice, can and will be heard. Be sure to hit that like button. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you have not subscribed. If you have subscribed, be sure to hit that share button. And don't forget, we love the engagement, so keep the comments coming in the comment section. Okay, let me introduce my two legal beagles for this evening. We have the incredible attorney Symone Redwine.
Hey, y'all.
And criminal defense attorney Brion Ross.
Happy day.
Happy Wednesday. Court is now in session. All right, everybody. First up, we have Princeton University professor Morgan Juergens brings DJ Vlad to the Court of Public Opinion. She said he tagged her employer on multiple times trying to get her in trouble with her employer. All right, Attorney Redwine, what are our thoughts on this? And is this exactly what happened or not?
This is what happened. And as a HBCU law professor, I side with her. I am particularly empathetic to her plight because here, the gist of what she was saying is he, as he always does, interspersed himself in a hip hop debate. Her position is, hey, this is Black folks' business. Stay out of it. That's a thing. That's not an unusual concept. That's a thing. She said, that's Black folks' business. Stay out of it. And so he turned it into race thing by saying, oh, so you're saying because I'm white, I can't comment on Drake and Kendrick Lamar's beef. No, it's not. It's not about you being white. It's about you having the platform that you have and you not having the experiences that are the basis of the discussion. Because, for example, with the Kendrick and Drake beef, one of the things that he called him was a slave. You know, one of the guys called the other a slave. The other talked about his kids and the complexion of his kid, and that you don't like your kids because you only wanted light-skinned kids or you only date light-skinned women, etc. Those are actually Black people conversations. And so I can understand her position there. In the end, DJ Vlad tried to walk back what he said by saying, I never intended to call your job. I just wanted to basically check your behavior. She was like, you a damn lie. You tagged my job. You tagged Princeton, so you can't do that. Oh, and by the way, now I don't know if DJ Vlad's current woman is Black, but what's interesting to me is when you put his pictures on the screen, he's got the complete uniform. You know how with white girls that like Black men, they got that little asymmetrical bob. He's got the white male version, okay? He's got the whole I'm trying to get a Black woman look, and he had one. Now, did she look like the Azalea girl? The Azalea girl. She looked like the Azalea Banks girl who on a very bad day, his woman did, but she did. But he had a Black woman. And so I'm like, why your girl couldn't pull you to the side and be like, yeah, go sit over there. Talk about something else, sir.
No, this is my question, Attorney Ross. To me, it was very deliberate. It was very ugly, and it was very intentional. The language that he used in the at Princeton, he's not going to call Princeton. No, you did call Princeton. You at Princeton, and everybody knows that these universities' social media is governed and monitored per second because that's how they inform the students. That's how they inform the parents of what's going on campus. I think his intention was 110% to defame her and to cost her her job. My question for you, Attorney Ross, is are there any legal actions that she can take to make sure that she silenced this noise from him so it does not further affect her job at Princeton? Even though she's not teaching anymore there, the semester will renew, so she might have the possibility of coming back.
I don't know what she would do. I mean, I guess you could creatively come up with something that says he has damaged my reputation at Princeton. But that's a stretch. You're the one that jumped into the fray. And that's your legal word of the day, people. F-R-A-Y. He was commenting on something that had nothing to do with you. You chose to elevate your status, DJ Vlad's status, if you want to put it that way, and jump in there and start telling him to back off. I don't know if the snitching element of DJ Vlad saying, hey, I'm going to tell your job was warranted. But guess what? You are at Princeton University. I hate to break it to you. The population has less than, 3% of people that look like me there, which I wish I had more, by the way. But beyond that, he has a right to comment on things. He has a right to bring it up. And your student body doesn't look like me or you. So maybe before you jump into the fray, you should have thought about it. So I don't.
Now, does he have a right? Does he have a right, Attorney Ross? Because I don't even like how you sound talking about this, because I'm going to always support my people of color. And if you're a professor, like I'm a professor, and like Symone's a professor, it's very hard for us to get those assignments at these PWIs. So for me, in my head, I always want to protect the woman of color who has this job where there might be 1% Black professors at Princeton, to be honest. And let's not talk about, and most of them may be associates or adjunct. Okay, let's keep it all the way real. So all I want to know is if a professor like her finds herself in this position, is there anything that she can do? Is there no cease and desist that she can send him and say, look, buddy, you're put on notice. If you try to involve my university in trying to get me fired, because that sounds like what it looked like to me is this was a campaign for him to use his leverage to try to get her fired. So if I hear you correctly, though, there are no remedies here. She put it out there. She responded. She opened the field for an open playing field. And now she just has to suck it up and see what happens.
But she tried to get him fired, didn't she, Al? Think about it.
She can't fire him.
Hold on a second. He is commenting on Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef, blah, 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 as it goes. Mm-hmm. The audience of those listeners is predominantly Black. Yes. The people who appear on his show many times are Black. He's a white man commenting on hip hop, which is largely a Black listening community. It isn't country. It isn't jazz, where the communities are largely white.
Yes, look, get to the point, please. So what are you saying to me?
Try to hit him in his community. She tried to hit him. Look, she tried to hit him within his community. Okay. He responded back. There's nothing she can do. She could have kept her mouth closed and had nothing. She jumped into the fray. She doesn't have a legal remedy. Your remedy was to be quiet in the first place. That's her answer.
All right, Symone, Redwine, is this your advice too?
I'd say that anybody could send a cease and desist letter. We see it all the time, like with different celebrities. I remember Tristan Thompson actually sent one to the woman who actually was his baby mama. So anybody can send one. I recommend, if something is upsetting you, go ahead and send it. You have nothing to lose. All a cease and desist letter says is, this is your warning that if you don't stop doing whatever it is that you're doing against me, that I'm going to basically exercise any and or all of my legal remedies. So this is a reminder, like, I'm not about to play with you. And it really does sometimes put people on notice and make people a bit scared, because they feel like, hey, if you're willing to pay a lawyer to write this stupid ass little letter that I'm going to ignore, then if I ignore it further, you may actually sue me. And so a lot of times it does make the other person backtrack on their behavior.
If nothing else, it makes them conscious. All right, speaking of conscious, Jim Jones is conscious, but he has landed himself in the court of public opinion. Hope he doesn't end up with a federal offense, though, from this incident, because if so, he runs the risk of being put on the do not fly list. Okay, Attorney Ross, now this is down in your neighborhood in Dade County or in Fort Lauderdale. What exactly happened here? How did Jim Jones end up putting his hands on a man to the tune of bloodying his face and head?
Isn't it funny that at least once a week, it's always in Florida? It's always in Fort Lauderdale or Miami. Always. So he's flying to town.
Where all the problematic slaves were deposited. They said, just get off the boat.
Something happened, right?
That one guy was like, I don't want nothing to do with this. I'm taking it by luggage right back up these stairs.
I'm late for my flight. So you look at this situation, and he's flying into Florida. He has to do a show at a club in Miami called Taboo. He's the sponsor guy. The anonymous source who I contacted and this is alleged, said that one of these men spit in his face and that he retaliated against that because obviously it escalated from that point, and he's saying they assaulted him. So that led to the fight, and you see two men attacking Jim Jones, and that's what you see in the Fort Lauderdale airport. The only thing that really supports Jim from the video is that when the police came, one of the assailants, looks like the older white guy, wouldn't stop swinging, wouldn't listen to the police. He looks irrational. So that's the backstory on this.
Okay, so tell me though, why would strangers ride an escalator down to go to baggage claim all of a sudden just spit on Jim Jones?
I mean, it could be any number of reasons. You've been in an airport, it gets crowded. People are edgy. You bump up against people that give you nasty faces. Ever travel across the land in that little train? Keep your headphones on and your eyes down. It might get ratchet. But in the end, the thing about Jim Jones is he's famous. He's got a couple of dollars. When they figure out who he is, and they don't know already, some lawyer can reach out to them and try and get this off the ground. Also, remember, people, that anything that happens, you want to argue with a flight attendant, you want to argue with the bag lady, that thing escalates, you are in federal property. That means the things that you are doing could land you in federal court, where the severities are much worse than some stateside issue. So just remember that when you go off in federal court, in airports, post offices, VAs, all that is federal territory, completely different environment.
Attorney Redwine, can you please help me understand? If you were Jim Jones' lawyer, what would you be saying to the opposing counsel?
Well, first of all, those men he beat up look like they had been coming off of a Frontier Airlines flight to purchase prostitutes that was delayed for 48 hours, okay? They look like they've been through it all. They look downtrodden, first of all. And then second of all, when you think about in this day and age, the kinds of person that would spit on another person, and I believe that accusation, because people don't generally like make up a spitting accusation, particularly when they know that there are cameras around that are capturing it, right? The type of person that would spit on you is the kind of person who knows I can't whoop you fair and square. Remember, what was her name? Pumpkin in I Love New York and all of that back in the day? She said, I can't whoop you, so I got to spit. And when you look at those men, can none of them whoop him. It took two of them. The one that was in the back, just talking about some tapping on his back. Sir, go sit down. But I do agree. I agree with Brion that ordinarily those two white men were, especially because they were old, they were fragile. They're what we call an eggshell plaintiff, which means if you hurt someone like that, your ramifications, your charges could be so much more severe because they're old and crotchety and their bones don't work, right? If you're dealing with one of those, your charges could be so much more severe. But I do believe, based on what we saw just there, it appears that they were the instigators and they just lost.
So let me ask you this then, both attorneys. I always thought under everything that I've ever seen or read is that, and I think we talked about it here once before, once you see that they're no longer a threat, they look like they were in their 70s. One hit took them out. One guy, like you said, looked like he was barely tapping on his head and he was trying to fight. At what point should he have de-escalated that to stop beating on the guy that was on the floor already?
Symone, the thing about it is it happens so fast. And if you look at the bottom of it, I'm staring down the video now. Unfortunately for everyone, right? There's a third man, an innocent man. And I think he's in like a yellow sweater underneath this, and some woman's trying to help him out. So he was caught in the melee and they all tripped over him. So you need to stop at the point when you realize, hey, I resolved the situation.
Because he does stop. You see right there, he does stop.
He does stop. Yes. But Jim,
the answer is I think he stopped at the appropriate place. Why? Because he stopped when the police arrived. And in fact, you hear him yelling, they're jumping me, things along those lines.
But you see this old man right here. This old man clearly, he can't even get back up.
Hey, what my daddy says is if you start a fight, you don't get to get mad that you get whooped. That old man started it and got whooped.
All right, we're talking about don't start a fight and you won't get whooped. TikTok won't stop. TikTok, Biden, and TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, are on the docket tonight in the court of public opinion. Now, ByteDance is saying Biden is violating their constitutional rights. Attorney Ross, tell us what is going on with TikTok, and is it really a violation of their constitutional rights?
Free speech, power to the people. TikTok is saying we're an entity. We have the right to have free speech. United States government says not so fast. You're a Chinese branded company, right? ByteDance owns TikTok. They are a Chinese national company, and you have access to bank accounts. You have access to private information of American citizens that can be compromised and sacrifice the integrity of the United States of America. So therefore, we want you to sell all of your U.S. entities to an American company. TikTok said, we're not going to do it. It will never happen. So in response, they filed a lawsuit. They filed a lawsuit to stop this from happening.
Now, let's be clear. That's not exactly how it happened, Attorney Ross. I do hear you, but this started back during the Trump administration when Trump was in office, and they originally agreed to sell a part of their company to an American stakeholder. Now, this is the question for me, because I understand that TikTok is the fastest growing social media platform in the country. Well, we can argue around the world. However, if it compromises U.S. American people's safety and concern, right? So for a president to put the safety and the concern of a country first before profits and benefits, I don't find a problem with it. What is their problem with divesting a portion of their company to prove to America that you are not, in fact, going to cause us any harm?
$8 billion. Sorry, Symone. $8 billion. They're making $8 billion a year, Symone. They don't want to sell anything. They want that number to get to 10 billion, 12 billion. It's about money. They're making $8 billion.
Well, I mean, when we think about social media platforms, are you sure that's all they're making? You might want to research that more, because $8 billion is a lot, not a lot of money. Not on social media platforms. I think they're making more than $8 billion. But if it's $8 billion or no $1 billion, which way are you going to go, Attorney Redwine?
Here's the thing. There's two main issues. So as it relates to the freedom of speech and restrictions on the freedom of speech, is the U.S. Constitution is very clear. You cannot restrict future speech, meaning you can make a judgment. A court can rule on something that I've already said and say that's inappropriate or that can be restricted. But you don't get a chance to mute me. In other words, you don't get a chance to rule on something I ain't even said. Because what if I don't say it? In fact, that is why Tasha K won a component of her lawsuit against Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart tried to basically put a gag order against her from speaking at all about the lawsuit. The court said, you can't do that. That is a future restraint on free speech. And because we don't know what she was going to say in the future could be completely okay with the law, we're not going to gag that person. So we've got that issue here, is effectively the American law says, oh, we're putting this in place, even though we don't know what's going to happen in the future. For example, they could say, all right, they as in TikTok could create a rule that says no one under 16 can have a TikTok account. Therefore, they're protecting children, because that's supposed to be part of the issue. Here's the bigger issue that I have. I want you to lean in. I want you to lean in hard. I don't know if, what's his name? Mr. Rashad and Bilal, who have the Earn Your Leisure. I don't have a gavel, but here's my concern. Here's my thing. I have an issue that Congress was able to get all together and do this little here law regarding TikTok. And they're doing it on the basis of national security. But we are allowing Chinese nationals to buy up the hood. Right. They are literally coming into African-American communities, buying up all the land, owning the land, holding the land. They won't even lease it back to us in very many circumstances, right? And when you own the land, you own what? You own the politicians. You own the right to make the rules. So I have an issue with the fact that the U.S. government is claiming this is such an issue of national security, but every year there's a program called EB-5. In the EB-5 program, how it works is this. That is the only way in which people can buy citizenship. Initially, it was if you buy or invest in a Black neighborhood, at least 500,000, you Your spouse and all of your kids can purchase citizenship. It's the only way to do it. Chinese nationals, and per year, there was a quota, like each country had a match. Chinese nationals would apply for that. So many of them would apply for that annually that it would be at its max by about the 3rd or 4th week of the year. You know how it was for Black people? For Black countries, for Nigerians, Ghanaians, West or East Africans, sometimes we would never meet our quota for the year. So at the end of the day, this is not about American national security. This is about controlling TikTok and controlling TikTok's behavior.
I want to play devil's advocate here, though. And I want to say that there is a risk that some of the stuff on TikTok that I see from my kids' friends is a little bit too much for 10, 11, 12-year-olds. I mean, some of it is just really, really ratchet. And TikTok, in my opinion, as a parent, has not done. I know they said they spent $2 billion coming up with the infrastructure to protect American citizens, but I don't really think they've gone far enough. And you consider how pervasive they are in our country. Half of all U.S. adults are on TikTok at this point. So you add the growing numbers, you add that there's not really a lot of policing so far. Who's to stop it from getting out of control? So while I am as much a capitalist as everyone else, there's a small part of me playing devil's advocate that admires that the U.S. government is actually stepping in, doing something. They also
I appreciate your daddy vision, and I do appreciate you, Attorney Symone Redwine, for your the whole capitalist and getting citizenship. But that's not what I see here. I see in the court of public opinion, people need to read a little bit more into what's going on with TikTok. The United States government is saying that TikTok, the platform, how you sign into it using your phone, is where the security breach is, meaning people in China, the Chinese government, the people in China who owns this, then can take all of your information, the patterns of your digital footprint, and they could sell it for bad. So, for instance, Brian, as a parent, it's not necessarily the content. It's your daughter's keystrokes on her phone in viewing TikTok. It's the content that she likes on TikTok. It's her address where she goes onto her TikTok that opens her up to violations of her rights. It makes it unsafe for her. And they can bundle this information and sell it to other people who want to cause harm to the U.S. citizens. I think that's the biggest issue. It's not the content. It's the digital footprint that their platform creates that gives them access to your bank accounts, gives them access to all of your passcodes, gives them access to all of your HIPAA information. It gives them access to all of that information on a different level than any other social media platform. That's what I'm concerned about. Your banking information. Huh?
But Judge, so does the white boy. Mark Zuckerberg is my favorite white homeboy in my head. His entity did the same thing, had access to the same thing. And as a result, there were sanctions that were levied against
Absolutely.
Facebook. Absolutely. So I will not pretend that there was no remedy, but I'm saying as a result of the sanctions, that leads me to just re-articulate the law. The law says this: the restriction as it relates to the First Amendment must be the least restrictive means possible. And what I don't see here with this law is an attempt that they have made to say, okay, you don't have to sell yourselves if you enact these particular restrictions.
That's right. But they didn't want to do that either.
Well,
they didn't want to do that. We're going to put a pin on this because this is a good conversation. All right, everybody, if you're liking what you're hearing from Attorney Redwine, make sure you put those Redwine emojis in the chat. Also, if Brian Ross, criminal defense attorney Brian Ross, said something you like, throw those briefcases in the chat. And don't forget, I love to see my beautiful fax machine emojis in the chat. And please, please, please hit that like button. If you have not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. If you are, please share it. And you know what keeps us ticking? Your comments. So drop down in that comment section so that we know that we are sharing information that's not only entertaining, but it's informing and educational. All right, next up, 50 Cent. Yep, you heard me correct. 50 Cent is back in the court of public opinion, but guess what? It is all for his usual shenanigans. He's back in court because he is suing his baby's mama for the tune of $1 million for defamation of character. All right, criminal defense attorney Ross, talk to me. Does he have grounds for suing for defamation of character here?
I think he does, because she said he beat me up. She said he did all these physical things to her.
No,
so when
he said he raped her.
He raped her. So I was trying to stay away from the R word, but you dropped a dime. So he said these things. She said these things about him, and she didn't retract them. So anytime someone says something about you, as long as you retract it, you can kind of be safe. The problem for 50 Cent's claim is he's going to have to show his damages. He said people read the things about him on TikTok and made fun of him. That's unfortunate, but did it make you lose money? Did it cause you to lose sleep? Did it cause you to have these emotional outbursts that cause damage where you had to seek psychological help? Without those damages, your claim's only going to go so far. So I don't see a damages win for him, but he has a little bit of claim in the beginning.
I disagree with you, Attorney Ross. Clearly, we see damages. He's trying to get custody of his child. He's trying to get custody of his child. Even if it's not primary custody, shared custody. Are you asleep in my court, Attorney Ross? Like, wake up. This is law 101. She's saying that the father of her child raped her. That means no court in their right mind would give him custody of anything if he's raping the child's mother. Am I wrong, Attorney Redwine? What is going on with the Brion Ross today and his ill-fortunate legal advice?
You're right. No, that's why I love when Brion is here, because we're a good balance, right? I do civil law, he does criminal law. I'll be sitting over here looking at these criminal cases like, and then he's like, no, that's the law. That's and right. Here, what I'm saying is here on defamation, and I know defamation because one time I got sued. I've been sued for defamation a few times, but one time I got sued because I called my boss a crackhead, and it was cocaine, not crack. What the frick did you? Stop smoking crack, and maybe you won't miss the statute of limitations anymore, buddy. Buckaroo. And so I know defamation front, back, side to side. And one of the things that became involved when I called him a crackhead was that the law that defines defamation per se. So Brion, you're generally right. Like with defamation, you have to then be able to show damages, which I think down the line could be easier for someone like 50 Cent, because he could say, oh, there were brands who didn't want to work with me. You know, I just closed on this new studio and there were some partnerships I had in the making and they held off. However, more importantly, what he is able to do here, because the R word is a crime, what happens is he has pled defamation per se. Oh, baby, that's what you want to do. Defamation per se says, what this person has accused me of is so terrible, I don't even have to show you my damages, because just being called that thing and that kind of person is damage in and of itself. That is why I believe he has a strong chance of getting the million. Here's what's even funnier, because y'all know I love me some insurance. I love me insurance. I love guaranteed income streams, whether it's the U.S. government, whether it's general contracting, whether it's a man, whatever. And the funny thing of it is it's my understanding that part of his support is he is provided or chosen to provide her with an apartment, etc., apartment or house or whichever. A lot of people don't realize your renter's insurance, not always, but in many states, your renter's insurance and or homeowner's insurance comes with defamation coverage. So in effect, 50 Cent suing her for this defamation, if she is to turn over the claim to whoever gives her renter's insurance, or if she owns her property, homeowner's insurance, that person actually would say, hey, Daphne, even if you lose, you don't have to pay anything. Give us your deductible, which for homeowners can be a few thousand, right? It could be 1%, whatever. Give that money over, we'll handle it. And then in turn, 50 Cent both gets his win and gets his million.
All right, now this is the other issue though, Attorney Redwine and Attorney Ross. Daphne Joy may not be the smartest tool or the sharpest tool in the tool shed, because Daphne Joy then went to him and said, listen, because he wanted her to take down and retract the comment. And she, in fact, said, no, not unless you pay me. So now 50 Cent has said, boom, not only do I have a defamation case, I now have an extortion case. Attorney Brian Ross, what are your thoughts on this? Say you.
I think it's potentially there because she's asking for money for the retraction. But in the end, what's the allegation? 50 says, I want custody of my kid because she was allegedly a sex worker for Diddy. Who alleged that? Little Rodney Jones in his lawsuit against Diddy. So did he do it? He is saying my child is in harm's way as long as he's with my baby mama because she is working as a sex worker for her job. That's the basic allegation.
Right.
She responds back saying, he can't have the kid because he beat me up. The reason why I think he doesn't have a case is because he admitted in 2013, remember, pleading guilty is an admission. When you plead guilty, you admit under oath that you did it. You plead guilty to a speeding ticket.
But what did he plead guilty to? He didn't plead guilty to the R word.
He pled
guilty. He pled guilty
to rape.
Charged with, hold on a second. He was charged with kicking her in the stomach. He pled guilty to vandalism. Pregnant?
That's not rape.
Was she pregnant at the time?
That is battery. That is battery at its best. He took a lesser included.
Order in my court. Order in my court. Today, you just did not take your brain pills. You got me over here in daggone Maine when I need to be in New York with this court case.
He is guilty of kicking her in the stomach. That matters.
Attorney Ross, you are. These are apples compared to. This is not apples to apples. You're comparing apples to oranges. Cut it out right now. Order in my court. Cut it out right now. I mean,
wait, where did he plead guilty to this? I got to see this.
Guilty in 2013 to vandalism, but the vandalism that he pled guilty to was subsumed in the report where she alleged he kicked her in the stomach and destroyed her apartment during a fight. So
why he probably destroyed the apartment?
Okay, y'all really gonna
3 years of probation.
No, he probably destroyed the apartment. Are
you telling me he didn't do it? He did it.
He vandalized some stuff, sure, but I'm saying he did not kick her. And this is probably when she was pregnant. He didn't do all of those other shenanigans here because people of those means will say yes to a vandalism misdemeanor because it's a vandalism misdemeanor. Now I understand what you're saying, which is likely all of the accusations are what led to the initial charges, right? But we all know that there are times when you then reduce the charges based on your investigation of the facts. And most importantly here's the thing. 50 Cent didn't want this baby in the first damn place. Not with her. Not with her. There were comments that were made in the media. He was like, oh, shit. But you know that once the baby came, he took care of it. But we all know 50 Cent don't like paying child support. He don't like being on papers. He don't want to be on parole. He don't want to be on child support. He instead is like many men. This is not unusual. They would rather do the right thing off of child support, off paperwork. But what we have here, right? If you remember his older child, there was an incident where his older child, he was adjudicated to pay a lot of child support. I can't remember how much, maybe $12,000-$15,000 a month. But part of what he was providing is a huge house that he bought in his name, but he allowed his baby mom and his son to live in. At some point, he then went back to court and said, Your Honor, I don't want to pay $12,500 a month. I need to be given a credit for this expensive ass Long Island mansion. They were living in a mansion. Mansion these people are in. You know what the judge said? The judge reduced the child support to $5,500 a month. The mama got mad because she had to get up and go to work. See? You got to go and you got to learn some typing. You got to type. You got to learn how to fax. You got to learn a skill set because you cannot provide in New York City for $5,000 a month. Fast forward to Daphne. That's what we're going to see here. I anticipate he will win custody because of the foolishness of these accusations. He's going to win custody against Daphne, and 50 Cent live up the street. I'm not going to say his name. neighborhood, but he was here in Houston. And unlike California or New York, where they put both parties' resources together, and then it's like they pour them both into a cup. And if one party makes so much more, they'll tell the other one, it's okay, you don't have to pay child support. Texas doesn't play that. I anticipate not only is 50 Cent going to win, Daphne Joy is going to have to give him 20% a month of whatever she earns as a sex worker. She's going to have to pay him child support.
You got to stop it. Put the camera back on me. I'm putting my sunglasses on at
She's
night.
going to have to get her own apartment.
We usually, no.
OnlyFans.
Usually,
Daphne Joy will be on OnlyFans within the end of the year.
Order in the court. Order in the court.
Bust it wide open and tell them bring it back.
And
Bust
put
it
that
wide
makeup
open.
brush down.
No.
All right,
I
this
think I
is
know
the
how she
part of
does
the
it. Like
show. This is the part of the show where we have to give our verdict on our judgment on the case. First up, we have Princeton University professor Morgan Jerkins. Is DJ Vlad guilty or not guilty of trying to get this professor in trouble? Attorney Redwine, what are your thoughts?
He is guilty of getting the professor in trouble and trying to seduce other pretty Black girls.
All right. Attorney Brian Ross.
I'm wearing my sunglasses. We don't see eye to eye today. She cast herself into the fray. She could have stayed in her little room in Bloodluck Hall, wherever it is in Princeton, and said nothing. He's interviewing Black people every day of the week. You ain't got nothing to say. As soon as he bring up one thing between Drake and Kendrick Lamar, you want to start throwing shade. I say he's not guilty of anything, and she should go back to wherever she's supposed to go to and read some term papers.
All right, this is Al Reynolds, a judge in the court of public opinion, and I don't agree with that. I find DJ Vlad guilty of charge. You're trying to get that Black professor in trouble, and that's why you at Princeton the whole time until you were called off. We see you, DJ Vlad, and you better relax, especially if you plan on being invited to the cookout. All right, next up, Jim Jones. Jim Jones is back in the courtroom. Now, is he guilty or not guilty for putting his hands on people when he shouldn't be? Attorney Redwine, what are your thoughts?
His braids might be guilty of being a little questionable, but he is innocent. Those Caucasians abused him. They spit on him. Self-defense.
All right, Attorney Ross.
While I haven't agreed with Miss Redwine today on many topics, I do agree with her today that Mr. Jones is probably not guilty.
All right, in the court of public opinion, me, your judge, Al Reynolds, find Jim Jones not guilty of charge because you should have never spit on him. And even if you didn't spit on him, you shouldn't have been that close to him talking trash because you never know where you might tumble down to. All right, next up, TikTok won't stop. And Biden and ByteDance are back in the court of public opinion. Now, let me see. Who would we find is Biden guilty or not guilty for violating ByteDance constitutional rights? Attorney Ross, is Biden guilty or not guilty of violating ByteDance's constitutional rights?
I'm going to go with Biden. President Biden in the administration and Congress are guilty of violating TikTok's constitutional rights. At the end of the day, I know it's about the chips and the money, but you got to be a parent. You got to keep your kids off that stuff. You don't got to do social media. You can read the newspaper.
All right, Attorney Symone Redwine, is Biden guilty or not guilty for violating ByteDance's constitutional rights?
Biden is guilty because the truth is, if they really wanted China out of our business, they would have started with the Black community.
Wow.
Boom.
All right. In the court of public opinion, I'm Al Reynolds, and I'm going to find Biden not guilty. Not guilty is charged of violating the constitutional rights because this is a Chinese company that's trying to take over and is a breach to U.S. Information and security. I don't like it. I don't know if it's a violation or not, but I do know that I don't like it, and I don't want anybody to ever have that much access to our information. Last but not least, we have 50 Cent. Is Daphne Joy guilty or not guilty of defamation towards 50 Cent? Attorney Redwine, what are your thoughts?
That bitch is guilty.
Oh, All right, Attorney Ross, is Daphne guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty. He kicked her in the stomach, according to the papers.
You're talking about
Show me the
11 years ago.
papers.
That was 11
According
years
to the
ago.
papers.
Show me these papers.
I will.
Russia
All
probably
right.
made them papers, or China.
Wow. All right, in the court of public opinion, I'm your judge, Al, and I'm finding Daphne Joy guilty of defamation of character. You're so guilty that you said you would take it back if he paid you, and because he's not paying you, now
Extortion.
charge you. Now you've done slid from defamation. Well, actually, you've slid from being a sex worker to defamation of character, and now it's going to be an extortion charge added to it. Young lady, I'm watching your child pack his bags right now, heading on over to the 50 Cent mansion. All right, everybody, that will conclude today's session in the court of public opinion. Don't forget, we read those comments, so make sure you speak your piece in the comments section. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And don't forget to hit that notification bell. All right, today, court is adjourned.